Now, as we continue our Women's Health Week, we're discussing something that affects millions of women every year, urinary tract infections. But despite being so common, they're often still considered taboo.
Yeah, and if left untreated, UTIs can spread to your kidneys and cause permanent damage, which is exactly what happened to our next guest, presenter Cherry Healey, joins us alongside Senior Urologist Jean McDonald. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Thank you.
Cherry, I'm aware of UTIs. I know that my wife has experienced them in the past. But your first experience of a UTI was when you were tiny.
Absolutely tiny. So some people, the reason UTIs are a taboo is because they're associated with sex and hygiene after sex. So and when people say to you, because I've had chronic UTIs, they say, oh, is it, how's your hygiene? I think I was 3 when I first got them. I thought I was 6. And my first memory is at my old house where I grew up, and I thought I was 6. And I called my mum and I asked her, and she said, no. She said, you were 3.
3
I couldn't know. And she said, you actually had to go to hospital and you were put on a funny machine where you were turned upside down and you were filled with dye. And, I mean, don't you love the drama? And Alison with the drama. And I said, I can't believe that. And that kind of also made sense as to why I'm so prone to them. But I remember having one when I was 6, and I've had them on and off throughout my life. My worst block of time was in my late in my 30s after I had my 2 children. Obviously, something happened physiologically or hormonally that meant my body just couldn't get enough of them. Every month.
And what were the symptoms that you were experiencing then?
So the symptoms that there are lots of different symptoms, but the way it shows up in my body is wanting to pee, wanting to go to the loo. But then when you do go to the loo, it's really frustrating because it's only a couple of drops. You're like, come on! Take a book is my recommendation. And feeling sick, feeling a bit depressed, which is a funny one, but I've spoken to other women and they feel the same too. Feeling a bit down, feeling really uncomfortable. I spoke to the lady in your makeup room. She put it perfectly. She said, I want to take off my own skin, which is obviously very dramatic, but after a while, because it builds and it builds and it builds, that infection gets worse and worse, it gets to the point where it's actually unbearable. So this idea that because lots of women experience it, half of women have experienced a UTI and a quarter of women chronic UTI, so they're extremely common. I think there's a sense of, and this happens a lot with women's health, there's a sense of, oh God, just take a painkiller and go home, have a hot bath. They're serious, and if left untreated, you can end up getting sepsis and you can die. So I don't want to over-dramatise, but they should be taken more seriously. We should have an over-the-counter, non-antibiotic treatment. At the moment, there's not much you can do. You can just take antibiotics, which isn't good. You shouldn't take antibiotics. We all know that you don't want to become immune. That's a real problem.
Yeah.
There are 3 over-the-counter solutions to erectile dysfunction, just over-the-counter, non-antibiotic. There's not a single one for UTIs, and that just says there's a real gender health gap in things that are common for women.
And they can kind of strike anywhere, anytime, any place. You had one particular occasion where it was so dramatic and you got so ill, didn't you?
Well, it was my own fault, Kat. I was my own doing. So I was filming, and on the Wednesday evening of filming, I thought, I
think I might be getting...
Woke up on Thursday, yes, it's definitely there. But I was a bridesmaid. I was actually maid of honour at one of my best friends' wedding, and I thought, I was going straight from filming to her wedding in the countryside, in the middle of nowhere. There's no way I could get to a doctor.
You couldn't get something.
So I just was drinking cranberry juice, taking painkillers, which don't work. Painkillers don't work for UTIs. And I could feel my body getting sicker and sicker. I went through the Friday night celebrations, smiling like... and then by Saturday at the wedding, I just felt horrendous. And my partner, who then joined, looked at me and said, you look really bad. I had a blanket wrapped around me for the whole wedding, pretty much, because I was shaking uncontrollably because there was a fever. What had happened is the UTI... Because I also thought, maybe it's getting better.
Right, it was improving.
And what had happened is it had moved up to my kidneys.
Oh, no.
So then I got really, really, really sick, and I just went into a dark room and I sat there with a headache, and that's when the infection really set in. Went to A&E the next day, and they just couldn't work out what was going on. And I underplayed UTIs so much because I just thought everyone got them. I didn't even tell them I'd had one because I didn't think that was it. Because I thought it had gone.
You thought it was something else at that point?
It's only when they going to do a lumbar puncture on me to find out, because they realised I was really unwell. And they turned me over onto my tummy and she pushed my back, and I went, ow! And she said, oh.
And it's actually scarred your kidneys.
Yeah, she said, I think it's in your kidneys. And I was in hospital for 5 days.
Oh, Cherry.
On an IV antibiotics, and it scarred my kidneys. And that's what happens if you don't listen to your body.
Yeah.
Jean, I imagine you hearing Cherry talk about it like that is something you've heard over and over again from women who have been through this. Can you just describe what the UTI is, and is there a reason that certain people are more susceptible? Cherry has been getting them since she was 3.
Right. Well, a urinary tract infection is an infection in the bladder. And basically what happens, you may just suddenly get up, usually on a Friday or a Saturday, because
it's always... Why?
Yes. Why? I know, it always is a day that you can't go to the doctor. And then you're passing urine quite frequently.
Right.
You may feel a bit under the weather. In a sort of situation, you may sort of have blood in the urine. Or urine smells a bit off, and you're rushing to the toilet, but you're actually not passing much. And you get these symptoms, and then it's important to drink lots of fluids. And then what happens then is that you may go to the chemist or, and sort of ask for something. But there are different things that one can actually use and, try to use, like D-mannose, for example, and cranberry, but...
So that works, is it? It's not a myth. Cranberry juice works?
It's different. It works with different people.
Right, OK.
Because, as you know, everybody is different, and some bodies react to one thing and others another one.
With cranberry.
What
delicious, though.
What does the cranberry juice do? Does it change the acid level?
The acidity, yes, in the urine.
OK.
And then it prevents the bacteria from actually binding to the bladder.
OK.
Jean, is there a reason why Cherry would be more susceptible than, I know, any other women in the family, potentially?
The thing is, she says she had urinary tract infections from when she was quite young.
Right.
So you think whether or not she had something called vesico-ureteric reflux. And that is when, because urine should be coming from the kidney down to the bladder.
Yeah.
And if the opening, when it comes in, it's bigger than it should be, urine can reflux up into the kidney. And that can happen usually as the child grows up, then the ureter sort of lengthens, so to speak, and it may not be as bad as they go. But, she has a family history of this, so that's another thing. Yeah. And it would make you more prone to have infections later in life as well, especially,
Absolutely.
Is there anything people can do to kind of try and prevent them from happening?
Right. There are lots of different things. One can make sure hygiene is very important. So you wipe from the front to the back, right? Yeah. Because, what happens in ladies, and the reason that ladies get urinary tract infections is because the whole of that perineal area, where the rectum is, the vagina and the urethra, always has bacteria, no matter how clean you are. Yeah. And the bacteria that cause a urinary tract infection are bacteria that live in your gut. So taking things like probiotics can help. Having adequate hydration, making sure that you're drinking enough fluids. Usually some people complain after sexual intercourse, especially if you use sort of these spermicidal agents, that as well is one of the things that can cause you to get urinary tract infection.
Is there a point, at what point should you go to your GP, though? Because clearly Cherry can deal with it and copes with it on a day-to-day basis and works it through and knows your body very well.
I'm never very far away from antibiotics.
Yeah, you've always got something.
When would you say, right, now you need to see your GP?
If you're getting pain, if you get blood in the urine and you've tried sort of the measures, the normal measures, and it's not working, and even antibiotics for 3 days and it's not working, then you know that something quite serious is happening, and then it can actually go up to the kidneys. And then you can get pyelonephritis, and which can be very, very serious. Exactly.
OK. So 3 days and then,
I was just saying, and Jay has got in touch saying having a UTI was literally one of the worst things that happened to me. I remember thinking I was going to die because it was so severe. I couldn't breathe, my head was spinning, my back was hurting, and I kept passing out. And that sounds like where you were when you ended up in A&E.
I mean, I've met so many people who say when they get them, they sleep naked in the bath because it's just the only place they have comfort. The FDA have just approved an oral vaccine which will stop you getting UTIs for up to 10 years.
Wow.
But that's in America, not here. But we need a lot more research for non-antibiotic solutions for something that affects so many women.
Yes, absolutely.
This is another message we have from a viewer. UTIs are horrific. I had 7 already since January. No bacteria, so no antibiotics. Absolutely excruciating pain. Thank you this morning for covering it. Thank you, Cherry, for being courageous enough to come and share something so personal but so important as well. It's really, really important that you do. And Jean, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.